This story is from Pakistan. Parizaad is born into a poor family and ridiculed for his dark complexion. Despite his intelligence and poetic nature, he is constantly overlooked. Parizaad is born into a lower middle-class family, where he is the darkest among his fair-skinned siblings. From an early age, he faces discrimination within his own home. His brothers ridicule him, and even his mother treats him as an embarrassment. Despite his kind heart, he is always the outcast. At school, things aren't any better. He is bullied for his looks, ridiculed for his poetic nature, and shamed for his inability to fight back. Despite these struggles, Parizaad harbors a deep love for poetry and finds solace in words. He often stands on the school terrace, whispering verses to the wind, finding comfort in his imagination. One day, his kindness is taken advantage of when he helps a friend with an exam, only to be caught and humiliated. His trust in people begins to fade. Despite financial struggles, Parizaad manages to continue his education. His biggest dream is to be respected, but society constantly reminds him of his unworthiness. He falls in love with Nahed, a beautiful neighbor, but she sees him only as a pitiful presence. When Parizaad confesses his feelings, he is met with mockery, as Nahed's heart already belongs to another. Heartbroken, he leaves for university, where he meets Lubna, a wealthy girl who is fascinated by his poetry. She sees his intelligence and talent, treating him with kindness. However, the star-class difference between them keeps Parizaad from truly believing in the possibility of love. He remains cautious, always fearing betrayal. Lubna had always known the weight of loneliness, even amidst the lavish walls of her father's mansion. Born into wealth, she had everything: a fine education, elegant clothes, and a bright future. Yet, after her mother's sudden passing, all the warmth in her life seemed to fade. Her father remarried too soon, bringing a woman into their home whose heart was as cold as the marble floors of their estate. At first, Lubna tried to adjust. She obeyed, spoke less, and stayed out of her stepmother's way. But the woman never failed to remind her that she was unwanted. While her father traveled for business, her stepmother controlled everything: the house, the money, and eventually Lubna's fate. One evening, Lubna overheard whispers, her stepmother speaking in hushed tones with a man she didn't recognize. The words made her heart pound her chest. A deal, a price, a transaction. She was being sold. She wanted to run, but where would she go? Her father was away, unreachable. By the time she gathered the courage to fight back, it was too late. A marriage was arranged, not to a kind young suitor, but to a man old enough to be her grandfather. A wealthy, influential figure who cared little for her protests. Her wedding was not a celebration. It was a prison sentence. Dressed in heavy bridal attire, she sat motionless, the weight of betrayal heavier than the jewelry around her neck. As the ceremonies ended and she was led away, she turned back one last time, hoping, praying that her father would return and stop this madness. But all she saw was her stepmother, standing tall, victorious, clutching the bag of money she had traded Lubna's life for. Lubna had once been rich, but now she was nothing more than a possession. Parizaad stood at a distance, hidden behind the crowd, his hands clenched into trembling fists. The golden glow of wedding lights reflected in his dark eyes, but all he saw was her, Lubna, dressed in an ornate bridal outfit, her face a mask of quiet resignation. His heart ached in ways he couldn't explain. He had known pain before, had endured poverty, hunger, and humiliation. But this was something different. This was watching the woman he loved slip away, bound in chains he could not break. He wanted to scream, to rush forward, grab her hand, and run. But where? With what? He had no wealth, no power, no means to fight the world that had already decided Lubna's fate. He was just a struggling worker, barely surviving in a city that never cared for the weak. So he did nothing. He just stood there, swallowing his grief as he watched the ceremony unfold. When she bowed her head to accept the vows, something inside him shattered. She didn't look happy. She didn't look at peace. She looked like she was being buried alive. And Parizaad, he was the silent mourner at her funeral. As the wedding procession moved forward, as laughter and music filled the air, Parizaad turned away, his soul heavy with unspoken love and unbearable helplessness. He walked into the night, struggling to make ends meet. Parizaad takes up various jobs, sometimes as a tutor, sometimes working at a printing press. He faces constant exploitation and is often cheated out of his earnings. One day, his best friend from university, Narsaz, a fellow poet who understands Parizaad's pain. Narsaz introduces him to a world where art and struggle coexist. He encourages Parizaad to believe in himself. But just when hope starts to build, tragedy strikes. Narsaz falls seriously ill, leaving Parizaad to care for him in his final days. Watching his only friend suffer reinforces Parizaad's belief that life is cruel to people like them. Desperate for stability, Parizaad accepts an offer to work for Behrouz Karim, a notorious but highly respected gangster. Behrouz sees something special in Parizaad: his intelligence, loyalty, and ability to read people. Under Behrouz's guidance, Parizaad transforms from a helpless man into someone powerful. At first, Parizaad hesitated, but life had never been fair to him. Why should he continue being fair to life? His first task was simple: deliver a message, no questions asked. Then came another, then another. Before he realized it, he was standing at the threshold of power, watching as people who once ignored him now bowed their heads in his presence. He learns the dark side of the world, how wealth controls everything, how loyalty is often just an illusion, and how the weak are crushed. He also meets Layla, Behrouz's wife, who is trapped in a loveless marriage. She finds comfort in Parizaad's poetry, and their connection deepens. Behrouz's wife was cheating on him, and when he discovers, he killed her wife. He became lonely because he truly loved her wife and regretted what he did. So he suicides. Parizaad never dreamed of wealth, influence, or danger. His world had always been one of survival, of quiet endurance. But fate had other plans. When Behrouz is betrayed and killed, Parizaad inherits his fortune, but realizes that power and money cannot fill the void inside him. But power is a dangerous thing. It doesn't just lift you, it tests you. And soon, Parizaad found himself staring at the reflection of a man he no longer recognized. Parizaad met Lubna in a business meeting, surprised to see her after so long. As they spoke, she revealed the painful truth. After her husband's death, her mother once again treated her like a commodity, sending her to these meetings in hopes of securing a wealthy suitor. Anger burned in Parizaad's heart. Without hesitation, he took a stack of money and threw it at her mother's face, declaring that he was buying Lubna, not to possess her, but to set her free. In that moment, he realized this was his greatest achievement. Not wealth, not power, but rescuing a soul from chains she never deserved. Despite his newfound status, Parizaad fails to find true love. His first love, Nahid, married someone else. Layla, the wife of a businessman, flirts with him but meets a tragic end. Annie, a blind radio host, admires his poetry and personality, but when she regains her sight, he fears rejection and leaves her without revealing his face. Feeling disillusioned, Parizaad donates his wealth and disappears, choosing a humble life as a school teacher. Annie later searches for him, proving that true love is beyond appearances. Parizaad finds peace in simplicity, dedicating himself to education. As he teaches children under the open sky, his poetry echoes, symbolizing that true worth lies in character, not wealth or looks.
और तू पर भी चाले हैं कैसे जान पाओगे इश्क में क्या गुजरी है कितने जख्म खाए हैं कितने दर्द पाले हैं
Parizaad.